Well, thank you for joining us. This is the Williamsburg Economic Development Roundtable. Welcome to our 10th virtual and 138th roundtable. We're pleased to offer this as a service to our local business leaders, and we're glad you've chosen to join us today. The webinar is being recorded, so you can call in for audio, or you can watch the replay at your convenience. Today, we're anticipating over 30 people joining us who've registered for the call. My name is Rick Overy. I'm the chair of the EDA, a local business owner, and usually the host of the roundtable. In just a minute, we'll hear from our speaker, and at the conclusion of the program, from our Economic Development Director, Michelle DeWitt, closing out by highlighting some of the resources that are available to our business community. We anticipate the program will be about 30 to 40 minutes, and we want to make it an efficient use of your time. Even as our local economy continues to open with increased vaccinations, we recognize that this is still a very difficult time for our business community, especially for those in the hospitality and tourism industries that are really important to our area. Today, we're particularly pleased to be able to hear from our partner at the Virginia Tourism Corporation, who've led the statewide effort to continue to promote our state and region even during the pandemic. Staci Martin is a Senior Destination Development Specialist with the Virginia Tourism Corporation. She has 20 years of experience in public service, having spent 10 years with the Virginia Department of Conservation and Recreation, managing public relations and marketing for 7 state parks in coastal Virginia, including York River State Park, and several years with the Capital Area Workforce Investment Board in Henrico County. She's also an adjunct faculty member at Old Dominion. Her focus is on community and tourism development in the coastal region, and is concurrently working on certifications with the International Economic Development Council. Staci, thank you so much for joining today, taking time to speak to our business leaders and sharing your expertise and outlook for the tourism in our area. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Rick. Thank you for inviting me. I have a quick 10-minute presentation to start, and then I look forward to taking questions a little bit later in the session. So let me go ahead and share screen here. Make sure we get this going. And are we good with seeing the screen? Okay. All right, so I want to give you a sort of a 50,000-foot view of how Virginia tourism operates in economic development space. We call it either tourism development or destination development, and more state and local tourism offices are bringing in teams to look at tourism holistically, looking at things like product development and marketing, sustainability, and carrying capacity. So we know the industry has taken a major hit, and we know economic recovery isn't possible until tourism recovers. But it's clear that we're going through a period of unprecedented change, from workforce issues to changes to hotel operations. We're going to see some wholesale change in the industry, and we have to be ready to adapt to it, both in the immediate future, but also start setting the stage for what tourism looks like 5 to 10 years from now. So travel trends from destination analysts show that people are indeed ready to travel, right? Some people are saying they're going to take up to 3 trips in the next 6 months. That's great news, but it also proposes some challenges with maximizing revenue with fewer employees. We're advising localities and businesses to think about ways to adapt, such as changing zoning to allow food trucks, encouraging restaurants to add grab-and-go counters and coolers. One thing we really need to avoid this year is hot, angry, and hungry tourists that are going to create a burden on our public safety system. One example I want to share is the town of Cape Charles created a real estate tax abatement incentive for capital improvements for existing businesses. So a lot of folks took advantage of that and put in walk-up windows in the downtown area. It's a walkable community. They weren't going to have drive-throughs, so they created the old-fashioned walk-up window so people can order food to go. So VTC has a team of 6 people with offices spread throughout the region. I manage the coastal region. I live in Virginia Beach, kind of puts me in the middle of Northern Neck, Middle Peninsula, Hampton Roads, and Eastern Shore. I do work mostly with rural communities. These are our emerging tourism destinations. They need a bit more assistance. They don't have established tourism offices. So developing tourism product is a big focus at VTC with our marketing initiatives. Our destination development team sort of zooms in and zooms out of working with different businesses. So we might work with a brand new micro business We might work with a $1 million brewery. We might work with small town councils explaining how to build a tourism economy, and we might work with large county boards thinking about how to change zoning and planning. So the way I like to explain it is we help communities get their tourism deck of cards in order while they play the game. So we help identify gaps where they need more tourism product like lodging or attractions to get visitors to stay longer. We help with strategic planning, marketing, and storytelling. So we're kind of like a jack of all trades for emerging destinations and established destinations. So sitting down with folks, thinking about remarketing what we already have, right? Getting back into the tourism space. It's a real important thing to think about this year. How can we refresh our stories, our product, and our itineraries to get folks to spend more money or visit more often? I mean, competition is going to be fierce. Everyone wants part of these dollars. I know Colonial Williamsburg is getting really good at changing up some of their programs, like the Colonial Craft Beer Program. I mean, great way to connect history and craft beer. I also think the new Edge District regional initiative that the 3 counties are partnered on, that's a good example of expanding the market by telling a different story that's around your tourism product. So we do mostly focus on the entrepreneur space, on the micro business space, helping stand up small businesses, unique retail, and experiences. Sometimes we meet with a brand new business and we walk through their retail layout and suggest changes. Sometimes we walk them through VTC marketing services. Sometimes we'll meet with landlords, property landlords, and encourage them to allow consignment space so we can transition home-based business to brick and mortar. Sometimes it's working with the Planning District Commission to improve public water access so we can stand up new outfitters and new outdoor recreation opportunities. One thing we're focusing on with recovery is creative economies, looking at how we can adjust incentives for micro businesses, smaller incentives, tax abatements, utility permit abatements, and sometimes even rent subsidies. Working with your property owners to do percentage of gross sale rents rather than a flat rate rent. So we can look at these new potential marketing segments as well, like Black travel, LGBTQ travel, and the virtual student market. Here in Virginia Beach, our schools are going to the Virtual Virginia statewide system. That system only has classes 3 days a week that are required. Thursdays and Fridays are optional for grades 6 through 12, which means we could really capitalize on long weekend travel with those families, having folks come for 3, 4, 5 days and doing field trips. And certainly Colonial Williamsburg is a big place to have field trips. We also need to plant the entrepreneurship bug with our young people in middle and high school. We need to build this pipeline of business owners for the future. So getting into DECA programs and high school business programs and teaching young people how economic development works, how incentives work, and that there's a whole ecosystem, a whole support system in every community to support small business. So we're also working hard to get the word out about tourism development at conferences like VITA and VML and VACO, making sure that our team is engaging in professional development with IEDC, and making sure that communities know that VTC is here. We do have some incentives and grants that are to start up businesses and help establish businesses, but also staying connected to the economic development authorities and EDOs and IDAs in each region. So we have updated this state tourism plan with new strategies and new marketing ideas and new product development ideas. I'll post the presentation link in the chat, and everything is hyperlinked so you can get to these plans through the presentation. The plans are available online, and although they were created pre-pandemic, we also created these 5 how-to guides to really teach communities how to market, how to enhance existing businesses, how to find funding, and how to work on tourism advocacy. We also added a 2020 recovery guide to jumpstart folks thinking about how things are going to change in the future and how to keep maximizing that revenue. So we do have funding resources. They are small, but they're often a lifeline for small businesses, and they help boost tourism marketing and generate conversations about tourism development in the community. So I'm going to run through those very quickly. Our most popular program is the Marketing Leverage Program. This is a matching grant program for marketing plans. It requires partnerships. So 3 different EINs, 3 businesses partner together. They put in a pool of money and VTC matches that 1-to-1 or 2-to-1, depending on the funding level. So the round that opened today is an in-kind match round, which is rather rare. The grant is always open to private business as well as governments, tourism councils, NGOs, 501s. We also have the Tourism Development Financing Program, that's GAP financing. That program has about a 24-month, 36-month runway. That's for really big hotel projects, things like the Cavalier and the Main here in Norfolk and Virginia Beach. That program does require legislation. Tourism zone legislation needs to be passed as well. Recently, the Tourism Investment District legislation passed. We are working with Civitas to sort out how that will be implemented in different communities. And we will sort of have some presentations at VML and VACO to decide how localities might want to approach establishing those districts. It does require that businesses in the district agree to the program, to the transaction fee. All that money from the transaction fee go into a marketing program that's invested specifically in that district. We also have our Drive 2.0 community grants, and those are $10,000 grants to communities that complete our Drive 2.0 initiative. This is a community survey, an online facilitated meeting with VTC, and then a third consensus meeting where the community comes together and decides where to invest this $10,000. So sometimes it's marketing, sometimes it's for public art, sometimes it's for a feasibility study for a project. So that next round will open in mid-June for communities to apply. And then we have the Lovework Grant Program. You can see the one in the picture here. This is in Cape Charles. They often reflect the ethos of the community. So you can design those letters however you want. The grant is open to private businesses as well as NGOs and governments to build these Loveworks. They can also be murals on the side of buildings. We will help pay for design and paint to do that. And then since VTC doesn't have a lot of big incentive programs, all of our team is aware of other programs in the state, like the APHID program for agritourism or DHCD's IRF program to rehabilitate buildings. So we'll let folks know we might not have that incentive at VTC, but here are some other options for you through VEDP or DHCD or VDAX. So I do want to leave you with some final thoughts about the future and about a great new project that has some overlap with tourism, workforce, and economic development. So we get through these next couple of years at recovery, and we're looking at just an incredible 5-6 year season of some great stuff going on. America's 250th, which of course is right here where we are. Everything happened here. We have a real opportunity to capture East Coast tourism. The World Cup will be, sort of transitioning between New York, DC, and Atlanta. Folks will be traveling up and down 95. Let's get them off 95 and over to 17. And then the new NASA missions to the moon and to Mars. We've got quite a bit of space assets in the region with Langley, with Wallops, Dahlgren, Udvar-Hazy Center, Virginia Air and Space, planetariums. So we have stood up with the Governor's Aerospace Council, the Virginia is for Space Lovers initiative, and we're looking at creating this driving tour or marketing collateral that has this space loop and all our space tourism assets. And it goes beyond just the science museums. It can be full moon kayak tours. It could be a Colonial Williamsburg program on celestial navigation, right? We're really trying to think about ways to connect existing product with this new initiative. And so this new initiative, it really shows connections between tourism development, workforce development, and economic development. Kids who attend camps and programs, they end up dreaming about becoming astronauts, right? About becoming scientists. They get aerospace degrees, and then they open aerospace businesses, which is your traditional economic development. So we're sort of preceding the system, getting young people interested in STEM through tourism, And then 10, 20 years from now, they're going to be your traditional economic development leads of the future. So it all layers together, right? We all do things in traditional economic development, tourism development, workforce development, and marketing to sort of work on this robust economic recovery and ongoing growth. So I look forward to answering any questions on what I covered here in a moment, and I'm happy to set up some follow-up meetings through Zoom or answer questions through email. I'm going to put a link to the presentation here in the chat. And like I said, there's hyperlinks in there, so you can click it and go directly to our webpage with the different programs. I'm going to stop share here and turn it back over to Rick.
Well, thank you, Staci. Thank you for reminding us that there's life after COVID, that there's a lot of exciting things coming up in the next couple of years, which will highlight our region. And I think that's really...
You know what, I lost you a minute.
Rick, it seems you have frozen.
Yeah.
Oh, let's see. 1 second.
While we're waiting, feel free to type questions in the chat box. I already see one that's there.
I can go ahead and cover that question. Gabrielle asks, what about businesses in James City County? Do you qualify for any grants? The answer is yes, you do. The county could partner with businesses with other counties and apply for the marketing leverage grant. There is a link in the presentation and a webinar on May 18th on how to apply for that program. The county itself could also apply for the Drive 2.0 program to get the $10,000 grant for a new project and hold those community meetings about tourism development. Certainly, if you have a qualifying project for gap financing, big project, retail, hotel, take a look at that program. Again, that has a pretty long runway, but that's a good one to sort of get familiar with as we move toward 2026 and the commemoration years. Another question from Gabriel here is, how do we get community members to apply for these grants? I'm happy to do a webinar specific to the grant. You know, I can even come up to Williamsburg and we could do a, you know, a seminar in person. Sometimes being in person, I think people are more engaged with the program. So I'm happy to do that as well. I'm happy to set up one-on-one meetings with folks that are interested in applying.
Thank you, Staci. I'm back. And I'll be really glad when we have these in person rather than by Zoom. So thank you for your patience. I think one of the things, is it better to go directly through you, or is it better to go through the Economic Development Office for James City County or Williamsburg?
I think, you know, talk to me first about what you're thinking about, and then we can provide you information on what the grant programs are.
I think certainly we would, as city staff, we'd appreciate you letting us know you're talking to Staci. We can join those conversations. And Gabrielle, I'm putting the email address for the James City County tourism person in their economic development office in the chat. And I'll also look up her phone number.
I think one of the things for new participants to realize, many of you already know this, but the economic development offices work really well together. Many business owners don't know which jurisdiction they're in.
I think we've lost Rick again.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
While we're waiting for Rick to return, raise your hand or put comments in the chat box. If you raise your hand, Joanna can unmute you.
Yes.
And you can ask your question directly to Staci, or you can type it in the chat box. I'm also putting the James City County Economic Development Office phone number in the chat box for everyone.
And I'm about to unmute Ted Maslin to speak. So hold on 1 second. Ted, if you, here we go.
Can you hear me, Joanna?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. Hey, I appreciated the comment about walk-up windows and the picture you've seen throughout this presentation of the Goodwin building. So my first professional position was actually working on the first floor of the Goodwin building in the architect's office, and we would kid each other that maybe we could open those windows and sell ice cream from them. So maybe there's some ideas there for until we fill the Goodwin building, maybe some temporary retail operations. But my question is, one of the things that we've seen hardest hit is the conference business, the business conferences. But one of the benefits of people working at home is the value of work-life family balance. Are you seeing any pivoting toward, a different approach to conferences, which would be maybe hybrid, where you could have exhibition space and you could have people come in person for part of it? Some could be virtual, but actually pair that with, events, especially tourism events for the family, and make it, a whole family affair. And in our area, it would be perfect for that.
I think you're right, Ted. We're really going to have to think creatively about capturing that business travel market. I think we're going to see a lot of different things happen. Like you said, we're going to have add-on days so folks can travel with their family. I think one of the biggest concerns with conference and business travel right now is eating unmasked, is how do we manage conference lunch and dinners? Oftentimes that's when we have our keynote speakers and special presentations. So that'll be a challenge going forward. We do have a dedicated team to group travel, which is sports and meetings, conventions. Another thing I think to think about in terms of that is I think we're going to see some price point changes. We may see family travel and leisure travel price points go up a little bit to make up for the loss of that convention and travel business. That's something we need to be prepared for. At the same time, there's also going to be a lot of price pressure and competition. Folks will be looking for bargains. So it's going to be a really fine line to walk, I think, for our lodging partners as we get through, let's say, the next 18 to 24 months.
As a follow-up, Staci, and I'm sorry if I missed this while I was trying to get things in chat. What's your advice to our businesses as we navigate the loosening COVID restrictions? Could you remind us of the timeline of what the governor has said and what you see, what dates we should look for and how best to stay informed?
Sure. It's my understanding that the May 15th lifting of some additional restrictions is already published. I don't want to list all those out for you because it's pretty complicated, right? And then the next benchmark, depending on vaccine rates and infection rates, will be June 15th. And there is a potential for the majority of restrictions other than masking to be lifted. The state of emergency ends June 30. So there is some issue. Virginia code is that you actually are not allowed to wear a mask unless there is a public health emergency. So that's going to have to be addressed during the special session to figure out a way to make it so people can still wear a mask, but there is the public safety piece of that. That's going to be another thing that we're going to have to sort out in the next 60 days. So I think just look for May 15, some additional lifting of restrictions, and then 30 days later, June 15. And the other thing I would recommend to our businesses is think about how you're marketing. Right now, VTC, we would normally have an annual marketing plan. We're going in 30, 60, 90-day increments because we don't know if things could change, right? So really look at seasonality. Think about how you might adjust your brick and mortar business if there are restrictions this winter. Start thinking about standing up your online store, thinking about those takeout windows, thinking about cross-training folks to be delivery drivers as opposed to food prep folks. So really start thinking about how to be more resilient, whether it's another pandemic or it's a natural disaster of some kind. Just be ready for that. There's some great resources from US Chamber. Their Resiliency in a Box program is a great one to take a look at.
Great, great. Another thing I have while we're waiting to see if the audience has any more questions is, what are you hearing? We're hearing some things through the SBDC, but are you hearing anything about reopening events as a community celebrates together? Or do the businesses getting together and, we're reopened. Let's celebrate that we've made it through this pandemic.
I think that's a great idea. especially against the backdrop of the 4th of July week. That falls on a weekend, which means folks will maybe taking off the 2 weeks, right? You've got, you know, take the week after, you have 4 days of leave that you need to take the week off, maybe leave a little bit early the weekend before. That's also against the backdrop of sort of American innovation and entrepreneurship, support your small business, and Main Street. So that's a great time to sort of get that in order. I would recommend maybe planning for that, but then, you know, being able to move quickly on June 16th if all the restrictions are lifted. But that is a great idea. We're open and we're ready.
Yeah.
At the same time, as I said before, we do have the workforce challenges. I mean, it's 2-3 hour wait to get into some restaurants. So really thinking about, don't overmarket based on what your capacity is. We need to be careful that we're not exceeding our carrying capacity in each community.
Great advice for us. And I would say to city businesses, let us know. You know, we have city businesses who are working collectively in different areas, whether it's High Street, downtown, or the Edge, which you talked about, Staci, and I'm going to mention a little more in my few remarks at the end. But reach out to us. We're Yuri and Joanna and I are happy to help with those plans, and any way we can help shine a light on it, bring the mayor and city council in and help you publicize. We're happy to do that and excited to do it. I just saw that Kathy Howe from Howe Creative Group is a marketing firm for Colonial Williamsburg Merchant Square. Hi, Kathy, glad you could join us. And Staci, she's asking if you'd come present to her association.
Absolutely will. Just send me an email. I'm going to put my contact information in the chat here, and I am happy to come up. I'm fully Pfizered and ready to travel. So. And
Cash Earhart is, he wonders who's the central point of contact for the things you talked about, the Space Loop, the 2026 events.
I wish there was a central point of contact, a central calendar. Some are federal initiatives, some are state, and some are local. In the presentation, I put a link. It's a Google Drive presentation. Everyone can access it, and there are hyperlinks to the 2026 Commission, to the Virginia Tourism Space Loop page, and then also we do have a content calendar for VTC. I did not put that in the presentation, but I can send that out to folks and sort of what we're looking at marketing coming up. Wanderlove is our most popular campaign right now. So road trips is kind of the big initiative for right now.
Right. And for everyone just to remind us that we are blessed here in Greater Williamsburg with the Williamsburg Tourism Council, who has a direct funding stream and a professional staff who works with VTC. I think Rita, your boss, Staci, is on that council. So they are also plugged into all these efforts. And I'll get ahead of myself. Something I was going to say at the end is we want to remind all our businesses to get in touch with Visit Williamsburg with the Williamsburg Council. They have a robust marketing program and website, but they rely on you, the business, to upload what you're doing. So make sure your posting on their website is accurate and up to date, and that you're posting all your events. I have family in Virginia Beach, and I know that they often see things on Visit Williamsburg and then call me and say, hey, should we come up for XYZ? The most recent was the CW Lights program behind the Palace, which was really, really cool. So please make sure someone at your business or you are keeping that up to date. It's a very powerful tool.
Let me add, I would also suggest when you are uploading events and photos to the tourism websites, whether it's Williamsburg or BTC, you really think about your photographs and change those seasonally. A lot of folks leave the same picture up all year long, and it really helps if you show the 4 seasons in your photographs at different times of year. If you are short-staffed and have trouble with marketing, drop me a line. I do teach at Old Dominion in both the English department and the tourism department. We can find you internships, interns. The ODU Park Rec Tourism Studies department requires a 400-hour internship for their students. That's almost full time for a whole semester. So if you're willing to sort of, do some hand holding with interns, we can help you get some folks assigned to do content development, tourism marketing, and our grant can also help you pay for photography, web development, even creative services.
Oh, what a great offer, Staci. Thank you so much. I have a specific question. The city, we have a small business investment grant program where we pay for half the cost of a project to renovate or alter an exterior part of the building to benefit the business. And I was thinking about this takeaway window concept and how we could partner that with the VTC grant in order for businesses to leverage even more grant funding to get those things done.
Yeah, I think if you get a certain, threshold of businesses with takeout windows, it makes a unique marketing opportunity as
Right.
well, right? You don't necessarily take the time to sit down and eat. Businesses are still maximizing revenue. You can sell a picnic box, and people
Right.
sit on the lawn and have a picnic.
And our Williamsburg Association of Restaurants, our Williamsburg Area Restaurant Association just launched, for those of you who haven't seen it, check it out. They launched Park and Dine. So it's for carry out and then go eat in a city or a county park. So if you're not looped into that yet and you're a restaurant, please take a look. They've done the mapping and the marketing for you to pass that on to your customers and encourage that use. Just on a point of a kind of a segue, and we're looking at doing a takeout window at the municipal building for the city as well. It won't be food, but you can do your business because we think that's just the way of the future. Or certainly not even the future, it's now, right?
Yeah, definitely.
And Laura just posted the Restaurant Association Park and Dine direct website, so y'all can take a look at that.
I'm going to pass that on to our marketing folks at VTC, see if they're aware.
Terrific. Yeah, it was very, very nicely done. So if there's no other questions from the audience or from Rick, I'll turn over to, I just have a spotlight, and I'm actually, some of it is touches on some of the things you talked about, Staci. So I'm excited to sort of piggyback on that. We have a slide that Joanna's going to put up to remind me what I'm talking about. So the first one was, please stay in touch with the Williamsburg Tourism Council, the Visit Williamsburg listings. We have their phone number there. You can also easily find them on the web. I've already mentioned that, but it's important for our businesses to keep up on that. And then I love Staci's offer of interns to help. Also, this week is National Economic Development Week. So we are celebrating, so virtually hug an economic developer. Joanna and Yuri on my team are amazing. So if you want to tag them in a social media post or thank them for all their efforts during COVID, please do so. Thirdly, we have a group of businesses downtown who are looking at a downtown association and how that effort could fit in with the existing Merchant Square Association and with the city efforts to really be an advocate for downtown activities. They're asking everyone to take a survey, and we have a short URL there for people to take the survey. And then very exciting, the Edge District, which Staci mentioned. The Edge is the 2nd Street, Capitol Landing Road, Merrimack Trail area of not only the city, but also the 2 counties. So the economic development authorities of the 3 localities put some money on the table and said, businesses, if you get together and match this, we'll help you start to market together. They leveraged that with a VTC grant. Thank you very much, Staci. And please look at their website. It's dynamite, edgedistrictva.com. And then for those businesses who are thinking of expanding or looking for another location, the part of that Edge District in the city is also a tourism zone. And Staci mentioned tourism zones, and just wanted to point out the way we structured our tourism zone in the city is that you automatically get revenue. We call it a revenue sharing incentive. So if you open a business, a restaurant, retail, hotel, entertainment, a business that will pay sales tax, room or meals tax, we over 5 years will refund those taxes to you. The first year 100% of those taxes refunded, the second year 80%, the third year 60%, then 40% and 20% in the 5th year. And that, if you're a restaurant, your customers are paying a 5% meals tax to the city and a 1% sales tax of the sales tax that comes back to the city from the state. So that's a 6% of your gross sales grant for locating there or expanding there. So very, very very lucrative, and like I said, it's codified. We don't have to negotiate that. Council has approved it. We can do that program. And then lastly, we wanted to remind everyone of our grant programs and that we are putting them online to make them even easier for you to apply for them. And 3 of them are online: our Small Business Investment Grant, which is $7,500 for outdoor improvements; our e-commerce grant to help you with your website; and our Google 360 grant to get interior photography done for your Google site listing. And I'll turn it back to see if Staci or Rick have any other closing comments, or if anything's in the chat.
Well, thank you, Michelle. Your team is excellent. I think the first takeaway is to be in touch with the team that the jurisdiction that you're in. So we had some people on the line from James City. You should reach out to James City, Williamsburg, to the city team, and to York County, to those teams. They are very familiar with the grant programs that are offered locally, regionally, and state. And there will undoubtedly be more money coming from the federal government. So stay in touch with those teams to find out what grants you're eligible for to sustain and expand your business in the city. With that, our next business roundtable will take place June 8th at noon, and we look forward to seeing you then. Staci, thank you again for your expertise. We really appreciate the partnership with VTC, and we would certainly appreciate you being here today. We hope that you'll join us next month. Be in touch with your Economic Development Director. Please take care of yourselves and others in the community and make it a great day to do business in Williamsburg. Thank you.